You're watching Oilers Nation Everyday with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
The Oilers season ended yesterday, and somehow it's already free agency. Let's get into it with the lead. It all happened very quick. Everything that kind of went down over the not to bring this up. It hasn't even been 7 days since they lost in the Cup final.
Oh yeah, today is 7 days.
Today is 7 days.
Oh well, that is sad.
Yeah, that sucks.
Well, yeah, folks.
All right, show's over. I'm bummed out.
It really is funny because I said this, I think, last week too, but Oilers season ends and usually there's a round or two left to play. This one ended and it's like, oh, we are in the thick of it. GM's gone. We haven't had time to re-sign any of our players.
Nope.
And now all of a sudden we're trading into the first round. And now we've got a player from a team we eliminated and a player that we had last season is on a team that we eliminated.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
Busy.
We're going to break it all down. Welcome into the show live from the Sports Closet studio. Check them out online, sportscloset.ca. 3 locations in the Edmonton area. It is, today's not a summer edition of the show. Summer edition will start on Wednesday, I think.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think
today's still hockey.
The next couple of days, I would say the official. It's weird. Free agency is so weird because you expect it to kind of linger for a while. Yeah. And really, it's just one player that'll sit there for 2 weeks before Lou Lamoriello signs into a 7-year deal. That's kind of how things go down, you know?
Fair enough. All right. Here's what we got coming up today on... Sorry, I've been talking a lot already today.
You want me to go? Here's what we have coming up today. We're going to talk about Viktor Arvidsson. We're going to go around the NHL, the Nashville Predators. Extremely busy day today. Top 3 signing on Frank Saravalli's board, which I don't think I've ever seen someone take 3 of the best players in the free agency class. Never mind, whatever, especially in Nashville. Jason Gregor join us, and then of course we'll wrap up everything. Oilers, couple of players in, couple of players out. We might have a signing during the show. We'll see. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
We might, because I don't think the Oilers are done yet, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, Liam. But let's go through the news of what went down today, and a move that we had heard enough speculation on that it wasn't surprising, and that is Viktor Arvidsson. He is the big move. He comes over from the LA Kings. It's a 2-year deal, and it carries a $4 million cap hit. Viktor Arvidsson is a guy who, as you can see by the graphic on your screen, fought through a tough season injury-wise.
Yes.
Is a very fair way to put it. He only played in 18 games, but he still scored 6 goals in those 18 games. Previous years, 2022-23, 26 goals, 59 points in 77 games. Season before that, 20 goals, 29 points, or 29 assists, 49 points in 66 games. This is a guy that more often than not in his career has scored in the high 20s when it comes to his pace per 82 games. And I'll be honest with you, even last year, 15 points in 18 games is nothing to scoff at. Playing on the LA Kings, that is not playing with Leon Draisaitl. That is not playing with Connor McDavid. That is not playing at 100% health. He's had back surgeries. He's going to get a better opportunity to produce here. I absolutely love this contract. And, again, I absolutely loved the Conor Brown contract a year ago when we sat here and did our countdown to signing Conor Brown Day and all of that fun stuff. There is risk here. There is risk in every single contract you sign. The risk with Arvidsson, though, I don't think the risk is he's going to come in, turn into a pumpkin, and be healthy scratched for half the season. Yeah. I don't really see that as a realistic thing that could happen. The risk is he's banged up and he doesn't stay healthy. But here's the beautiful thing about today's NHL. If he's banged up and not healthy, LTIR him. Who cares? And it's only 2 years, so it's not like you'll have 4 years of a guy sitting on LTIR. It's a 2-year gamble. Yeah, he's a little old, 31. But it's not a risk on a 35-year-old. It's not a risk on a 33-year-old. This is still a guy who should have a couple of productive seasons if/when he is healthy now. We saw him in the playoffs. But now that he's healthy, I think he should have a couple of productive seasons. To me, I'm setting the floor next year for Viktor Arvidsson in the Oilers' top 6. I think he's scoring 25 goals. I think he's getting to 55, 60 points.
Yeah, I think, look, let's look at it in a different way, I guess. He's a clear upgrade of a Warren Foegele. And you have to pay an extra $1 million to get him?
Yes, I will say this. Their floors are similar.
I don't think Arvidsson's is inconsistent.
Yeah, actually, you know what? No, maybe I don't even want to say that. I think, Arvidsson is a step up from Warren Foegele.
Yeah, and we've talked about through the playoffs, just the quality that Draisaitl needs to help him if moments like this come up where he is a bit more banged up. You need a bit more consistency. And Arvidsson, we've all kind of grown to hate him over the last few years. His last moments this season were complaining to the refs and at the end of Game 5 at Rogers Place. So quite ironic we're here at the moment. But I'm a fan of Arvidsson. He's always been that guy. He's a bit of a pest. Like other teams don't like him, like we just said. But I think it's a good upgrade for the Oilers. If it doesn't quite work with Draisaitl, at least you have that good middle six guy who can slot in and out. And yeah, it's a good win for them.
Yeah, I agree. It's a win. We've talked a lot of shit about Viktor Arvidsson over the last number of years, but he would have been talking a lot of shit about us. So you just forget it. That's the beauty of sports and free agency. Yeah. We all talked a lot of shit about Evander Kane before he played here. We all probably talked a lot of shit about Milan Lucic before he was an Oiler and after he was an Oiler and while he was an Oiler. Yeah. But the point is, and he's like, Arvidsson's not quite in the same boat where it's like a player who you hate playing against but love to have on your team. Because I don't want to see him flopping around as an Edmonton Oiler. I don't want to see him crying to the ref as an Edmonton Oiler. But still, I like the contract. He has some annoying tendencies, and it's not like when you add a true pest. And he's obviously, I'm not trying to make a comparison to the player, but the style of like a Brad Marchand, where Marchand's antics are hilarious when he's on your team, and you love it. When it's against you, you hate him. Worst player in the league. Arvidsson's annoying tendencies will still be annoying as an Oiler. Yeah.
Do you know an interesting thing about Arvidsson is he doesn't really get up there in penalty minutes either. I know only 18 games last season, but 14 penalty minutes, no PIMs in the playoffs. And for his style, you'd think he'd be kind of elevate that quite a bit. But the most he's ever had in his career, 36, two-time 30-goal scorer. Like, I don't think this guy, he's slowed down because he's getting older, but like I don't think he's going to fall off a cliff like a Conor Brown did. And also one thing to consider with Conor Brown, he wasn't able to come back at the end of the season prior to coming to Edmonton. Yeah. His first games back were his first games at Edmonton. At least Arvidsson had the back end of the regular season and also the playoffs to kind of get his feet moving. Now he has a full off season of actually not rehabbing. I'm sure he will a little bit still, but like actually training and prepare for the season.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair way to look at it. So, let us know over in the YouTube. We'll get into a few things and a few comments here throughout the show. I have a really hard time finding something to dislike with this Viktor Arvidsson deal. He joins the Oilers on a 2-year contract. He's a right shot. He can play both wings, but I do expect to see him mainly on the right side. And we'll get into some hypothetical line combos and things like that in a little bit. The flip side of that, Jake the Snake in the YouTube chat, Foegele said if you beat him, join him. Not the if you can't beat him, join him, but if you beat him, join them. And, maybe LA looking for a little bit of inside information here, a little double agent kind of stuff. I don't know.
I don't know what Fogel's going to tell him. I mean, I liked Foegele. I vouched for him and said he was going to perform in the playoffs, finally put him in the top 6, and he did. But, I mean, if you're LA, I don't know if Foegele would have been the Oilers free agent I would have been looking at. It probably would have been Henrique, to be honest.
$3.5 million on a 3-year deal.
So they basically, the money they saved from Pierre-Luc Dubois, they gave to Warren Foegele.
So they're banking on Foegele and Kemper being a bigger net positive than Dubois. And getting out of the term on Dubois, was an important note and all that. But
wow, Detroit, Campbell to the Red Wings. Big splash from the Red Wings today.
He is a Michigan guy. So
Cam Talbot, Jack Campbell. What could have been in Edmonton.
Honestly, though. Yeah, and like Ryan says, Foegele isn't a loss. Like at that money, we're going to give out our contract most likely to be bought out award in a little bit. So study up.
Oh,
it's not Foegele,
but it's someone else on the Kings.
But it's not Foegele, but it's not Foegele. Like he's in the conversation, if I'm being honest with you. And again, if he's scoring 20 goals and 40 points and playing in your middle 6 and killing penalties, 3.5 will be fine. I just think going 3 by 3.5 for a guy who was getting healthied in the playoffs is, although he did have a 4-game point streak in the cup final. But that's it. Just it with Foegele. The playoffs perfectly sum him up.
Yeah.
He is a ghost. He is irrelevant. And then for 2 weeks, it's like, holy shit, this guy is awesome. And then some things flip off and he's back to
Rob Blake saw him bury that empty netter in game 1. I was like, God damn it, I need this guy. Holy moly. Get him in black and gray, silver, whatever they were.
Yeah, whatever.
New logo.
I do always think, like, listen, I love Edmonton. You've heard me wax poetic about Edmonton. I do always get a chuckle out of players and how it must feel to be like going from media crazy Edmonton to like, let's check in with Warren halfway through next year when he's living. Like, even if the Kings are 12 points out of a playoff spot, if he's kicking his feet up on a beach on his beach house, or maybe it's a couple minutes from the beach, if he's kicking his feet up and chilling and like there's 8 reporters at every game, I don't think he's complaining.
No. People, you mentioned there like number 1 candidate to get bought out, and people keep saying Tanev, and I don't want to sway too far away from the Oilers conversation, but just on LA again, Joel Edmondson, 3.8 for 4 years. That seems like a disaster absolutely waiting to happen. Like, I don't understand why these teams look at blue lines and when they're in the Pacific Division specifically and think, we just got to get guys who can beat up Connor McDavid, because the Oilers got through the Pacific Division where you have these big bad defensemen like Zadorov, Myers, whoever else, England, like LA had, and it's like, we're going to get more of these guys. Like, no, you got to be able to move your damn feet to play against the Oilers. So shout out LA, great day. Keep going.
I have an off-the-cuff take, but I want to stand up to make it because I think it's a hot take.
Okay.
I'm going to stand up. The LA Kings are going to miss the playoffs next season.
Wow.
Whoa.
So who gets in? Seattle? Oh, I guess wild card.
Wild card.
Yeah, the Central got pretty good today.
Kemper has not been good for a while.
No, he's not been good. Never like he was so good when he was with them 6 years ago.
Joel Edmondson is a third pairing defenseman
at best.
Warren Foegele is a third line winger. They're paying that collection of players $13 million.
Yep. Shout out.
They didn't get better. There's no way they got better.
Oh, no. The only thing they got better at is that, again, they don't have Pierre-Luc Dubois for 8 more years.
That's the only positive.
That's it. Yeah, I don't see it with them.
Legitimately, they could be.
As you know, but again, he's just not what he was 3 years ago.
St. Louis finished 7 points back of them for in the playoffs, and LA was a Pacific Division team, not a wild card team because of the loss from Vegas. But like, I can very easily see this LA team being 7 points worse than they were last year.
Okay, well, in the Central, Nashville got better.
You think?
Utah got better.
Utah, yep.
Winnipeg, obviously a playoff team. I don't think they got that much worse.
Lost Monahan, lost to Foley, but they were mid-season ads. Bought out Schmidt, lost Dylan.
That's not ideal.
Banking on internal improvements. Not done yet.
Seattle probably got a little bit better. Yeah, well, definitely. They got Montour and Stevenson. Colorado got better. Dallas obviously got better. So there's 6 teams just in the Central trying to compete for this.
Klay Thompson signing with the Mavericks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Whoa. That's a big one from the NBA. Aaron's excited. Yeah, Frank broke that one. Okay, let's continue back to the Oilers conversation because, again, we can sit here. We have all summer to shit on the LA Kings. It'll be hilarious. I'll even add this. Again, based on my prediction, it's going to be nice to not play the LA Kings a 4th straight time in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm writing them off. Number 1 LA Kings hater.
Although I did tweet Warren Foegele will lose to the Stanley Cup champion for a 4th year in a row.
Warren Foegele doesn't make the playoffs. He doesn't lose to anyone. Another pandemic hits, no cups handed out. Liam's prediction, not mine.
Quote from Viktor Arvidsson.
He is speaking to the media.
I'm happy to be an Oiler. This is a great group. They have something really good here. Mentions a conversation with Matthias Ekholm had a part in him signing in Edmonton.
They are best friends.
Are they really? They're both Swedish. And played in Nashville, of course.
And Matthias Ekholm loves it here. It's honestly been one of the things we talk about it a bit, but like that clip of him hugging Ken Holland, being like, thanks for trading for me.
Cool.
The fact that Ekholm got traded here and talked about how like his wife was over the moon that they could get to grow up in like a real city, raise their kids in the cold, damn it, the way God intended. Like his first summer here, he didn't go home back to Sweden. He stayed.
Yeah, that says a lot.
Oh, Matthias Ekholm, I love him. It actually makes me want to cry thinking about how much he loves Edmonton.
I wonder if they're from the same town.
And what do you do when you love someone or love something? You bring your boys with you. That's what he's doing now, bringing over Arvidson. So that's great.
Can't wait for Shea Weber to show up.
Okay. Elsewhere in the Oilers, Conor Brown.
Yeah, good signing. $1 million 1 year. I mean, at the end of the day, I think this was a smart deal by the Oilers not to just take what happened in the playoffs and be like, this guy's great again. Get the $1 million. Best case scenario becomes a third line winger for you. Worst case scenario, it becomes what he was last season and how's your penalty kill for $1 million.
Totally. 100%. I love the Conor. Like, you want to talk about bonus not stinging as much? Doesn't sting as much when you still have the player.
No, it really does not at all. So I'm totally kind of cool with it, especially with what happened yesterday with Jack Campbell. It kind of just covers that cost, doesn't it? And it's just like, again, we can't worry about it because it's already done. The deal's secured.
Yeah.
I'm happy he's back for a year. He obviously became a big fan favorite in the playoffs, was what he was able to do on the PK and just his overall effort in general in all situations. So, I mean, hey, like maybe we'll get the Conor Brown next season what we wanted this season.
Well, so he did in the playoffs score 2 goals, 4 assists in 19 games. So 6 points over 19 games, point every third game. We know there's more goal scoring in there.
Yeah.
We talked to him, we did in person at the Stanley Cup final about how, he said like everything wasn't working together until the trade deadline for him. So if you look, and here's the nice little career board of what Brown's done over his NHL tenure, he's 30 years old. Like this again, you didn't bring in a 38-year-old Conor Brown who is disappointing, and now you're going, boy, I hope the 39-year-old Conor Brown's not as disappointing.
Yeah, that'll be Corey Perry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we'll get into that for whatever reason. But still, like, if you go from the back half of the season, deadline on with Conor Brown, like, there's a lot to like with that guy. So I love the $1 million price tag on it. You need pieces like that. Yes, the bonus sucks. The bonus was happening anyways. I get it. But keep the player around. I would not be surprised if Conor Brown scored. I would be pleasantly surprised and not stunned if Conor Brown scored 15 goals next year.
Oh, no. I
Call me crazy.
I would not be stunned either. I just don't know where he's going to play. That right side has now become quite congested after what was not a congested right side.
You can flip guys back and forth, though.
Yeah, I just think trying to keep him on the comfortable side of it. I mean, they might have to. They, quite frankly, do not have any left wingers. Right now, their only left wingers signed are Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Evander Kane, if I'm not mistaken. Unless Dylan Holloway is a left winger.
Yeah, Holloway played on
kind of Ryan McLeod.
Holloway's flipped around too, but he's listed as a center/left winger.
Okay, so there you go. So you got 3 and 3 right now. Maybe 15 goals isn't great. I'm going to put my standard at 12.
Josh Brown is the other signing that the Oilers made.
Worst defenseman ever.
Yeah, goddamn terrible. What are they thinking? So I did get a chuckle out of this tweet from Daniel Nugent Bowman, who tweeted out some of Josh Brown's fancy numbers, and then said a message from someone who watched a lot of Arizona games last season. Quote, he's just an awful player. So that's not encouraging.
Quote.
Yeah, that's a hell of a quote. Mike Gould, who we've had on the show, but is a noted big-time Oilers hater, said it's like a terrible decision by the Oilers. Can I just add, like, again, 3 years, I look at that and I go, okay, it doesn't make sense to give that guy 3 years. It's one of those deals I look at and go, who were you bidding against?
Yeah.
But apparently they're bidding against the Calgary Flames. Also, quickly note on Arvidson, Frank had it. The Flames thought they were getting Arvidsson.
Yeah. Well, that's what you got for signing Markstrom a few years ago.
Nerds. Suck it. Anyways, the Flames also apparently thought they were getting Josh Brown. They don't, because the Oilers give him a 3rd year. It's kind of a dumb contract, but I've also long been a component. Like, I know you only have 50 contracts, but if you're a rich organization,
it doesn't matter.
You can bury guys. You can bury this entire contract. So who cares? It's like if they give Matthias Janmark 5 years by $1.15 million, I'll say I don't give a shit because you can bury it.
Yeah, and look, like here's the other layer of it too. This is clearly a depth piece for the Oilers in Bakersfield right now, which I know is kind of irrelevant to the Oilers.
Yeah, yes and no.
You only have Max Warner and Philip Kemp as right-handed defensemen. You kind of need another guy down there too. So if he's your 8th guy, then who cares? Like, it really does not matter at all. People are saying, like, you look at all these stats and hey, like, they're not good. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he's going to miraculously turn into this great defenseman, but it adds a little bit of sandpaper to your blue line. You get him for $1 million. Is Vinny better? Probably. But also, you might have to pay Vinny $2 million.
Yeah.
I think
And
I'd
if all
rather
you're
pay
looking
this guy
for
$1
is the
million.
third pairing D,
It is what it is.
so it kind of goes back to what a bit of my prediction was for the Oilers in all of this, because if you go look, and actually let's get into it. It's actually going to be our Sherwood Ford Giant offseason question of the day. And it is this: what else could the Oilers get up to? It's brought to you by our friends at Sherwood Ford the Giant and their fantastic service department, whether it's the mobile service van, their countless bays that'll get you back on the road quickly, or their valet service for when you drop off your vehicle and need to get to where you need to be. Sherwood Ford the Giant helps you out in every regard. Also, shout out Sherbucks. Here's the question. What else are the Oilers going to get up to this offseason? Because when you go look at their cap picture here, it's interesting. I'll say that. According to our friends at Puckpedia, $6.9 million in projected cap space for the Oilers with 17 active players on the roster. That is 9 forwards, 6 defensemen, and 2 goalies. So with that $6.9 million, I'm going to pull up my calculator, Liam.
Okay.
They'll be likely aiming to add 4 forwards and a defenseman. So you need 5 players, 4 forwards and a defenseman. Yeah, because you want to go 13, 7, and 2 to stay comfortable, right?
Yes.
Because then at the deadline, you can run with a slimmer roster and do things that way. So $6.9 million. Let's work through this problem together. Holloway and Broberg will cost a combined
2.2.
2.2. Okay. 4.7 mil. And now all of a sudden, all you need is 3 forwards. Corey Perry is your extra guy. It sounds like they want to bring him back. I think it's kind of ridiculous because he doesn't do a lot, but they like him in the room. If he's your 13th forward, who cares?
Yeah. So just let's say he's the minimum, 775.
Okay, we'll call it 800K because, easier on my calculator. So we're to $3.9 million.
Okay.
And that is now we're up to 11. So you need 2 forwards and $3.9 million. That is, again, the forwards we have on the roster from Puckpedia: McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Kane, Nuge, Arvidsson, McLeod, Brown, Derek Ryan, Dylan Holloway, and Corey Perry.
Can I throw an idea your way?
Sure.
I don't want to get too complicated with this. So what's Derek Ryan's salary again?
$900K.
What's Lane Peterson's? Do we have that? I might have it right here.
Lane Peterson is
775.
So you can save yourself 1.25 by going from Ryan to Peterson.
I would not be surprised. There's a lot of speculation that Peterson could make the roster this year, so maybe he's just an extra forward you throw into the mix. You have a guy like Lavoie as well.
Yeah.
So let's just say one of those guys makes the team at 775 or 800, whatever we're calling it.
Cool. So from 3.9, you're then at 3.1 million with 1 more forward to sign. So the Oilers aren't done.
No,
and
they cannot be done.
I wouldn't say they could not.
I think it's go on with your point.
I think a decent approach for this team to take is to work yourself to a spot where you have $250K in cap space when the season opens and you can go do your damage at the deadline. I don't think that's a terrible approach at all for them to make.
I don't think so either.
So, and again, people are going to roll their eyes if the blue line on opening night still features both Darnell Nurse and Cody Ceci. I think it's more likely than not that happens.
I think so.
And
too.
Cody Ceci, listen, we've seen him for the last number of years. I am just as much a roll your eyes when he makes his mistakes kind of guy as everyone else. He can get you through the first few months of the regular season. And then you go out shopping at the deadline.
Look, I mean, if you start the season and Kulak and Ceci is your third pairing, then we can all agree, yes, we would of course want the upgrade, but they weren't horrible in the playoffs. They're actually pretty decent.
2 of them did okay.
Yeah.
Numbers wise.
If that's your third pairing, then don't hate it.
And we're calling Broberg a top 4 D man. And him and Nurse, I like the idea of him and Nurse next year. So I think this roster as it currently stands with the Oilers, and you'd be running a top line, again, if you're going McDavid, Nuge, Hyman, boom, Draisaitl, Arvidsson, Holloway, McLeod, Kane, Brown. 4th line at that point, you're looking at DR. Who else do we have them sign?
Perry,
and whoever else you sign. Your next sign,
Conor Brown.
Conor Brown out on the 3rd line, but
Lavoie.
Oh yeah, Lavoie,
Pedersen, someone like that.
The other interesting thing we actually didn't talk about. What about Matisse Janmark?
Yeah, I mean, Rick made a tweet.
What did he say? Insider Rick?
Insider Rick, who, let's just say he's connected to 2 players with the Oilers.
He's connected to a lot of them, but
This year. He basically said it sounds like, Mark. He said 13 might be signing in Dallas.
Oh, he did say, I'm scared 13 goes to Dallas.
Something like that.
Okay.
I can't find him right now.
We didn't talk about Yaremchuk, but anyways, point is they can add one more player on top of filling out their roster and getting their extra pieces. They can add one more guy for probably just under $3 million and be comfortable with their cap situation.
Any suggestions? Did he play for Buffalo last season?
I'm down. I will not complain with either Skinner or Henrique. I think Henrique will price himself out of that.
I think so too.
I could see him getting like a 3x3.75 somewhere.
Chase it a little bit. Yeah.
Which again, for him, I don't understand why he'd be chasing the bag at this point because he's made so much money.
But the speculation is Winnipeg right now, right?
Yeah, Ken brought up Winnipeg.
But people keep saying Coffey's leaving. I'm very confused by that.
There's talk that he might not be back on the bench next year.
Okay. Winnipeg were a decent team last year.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it didn't go well in the playoffs for them, but maybe if they had kind of a defensive guy like Henrique, that might help them quite a bit. Ryan McLeod at center, third line center is, again, you're probably going to want to upgrade out of the deadline. So we'll see. I hope it is Skinner. I'd love this team to keep being able to score. And I mean, if you're Jeff Skinner, like, why would you not want to finally make the playoffs?
Here's a visual. It's not updated, obviously, but you'd put in Arvidson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mark.
I'm going through the process myself right now.
They do have Lavoie on the third line there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, James Hamlin. I guess that's another guy we haven't really discussed. He did play NHL games last year, sorry. And they did re-sign him today. I would not be shocked if he cracked the opening day roster. I mean, Jay did say in that one video in Vancouver where he's like, we need 11 more James Hamlins.
It was a great story for a bit.
Yeah, he was a solid player, a local guy. Like, I mean, I don't even know what he signed for today. I would assume minimum. Wouldn't hate if he made the opening day team, played handful of games, whatever. Could be worse.
AB, I just emailed you like my projections so we can have a visual, and we'll ask people if they'd be okay with this being the Oilers roster on opening night. But I do think the Oilers will sign if you assume Perry's coming back, because there are rumblings about that, and you assume both or one of Peterson or Lavoie is going to make the team.
Yeah.
Then I think the expectation is the Oilers sign one more forward, and that's the rest of their offseason. And I think I'm ready to say we aren't going to get the surprising cap dump deal.
There was a little bit of talk about
Kane. I think
Boys.
they might have done that if they could have done that, they might have pushed harder for DeBrusk. Now that there's no UFA out there, just run back Kane another year.
Yeah, and also I saw some reports that Kane would just build a house in
Edmonton.
See that. So I was like,
And he's got no move. So
yeah, and I mean you have to respect that as a player as well. It's like if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it.
Okay, here is what I had. Are you okay with this being the lineup night one next year?
Yeah, the Skinner thing throws me off a little bit. Obviously, Stuart Skinner, but
and you'd be starting with this, the blue line we talked about. I would say Skinner comes in $2 million, 1x2. So you'd be doing this with $1 million in cap space, actually.
The only thing I would possibly change is just have Perry on the outside looking in, but I could see on the opening day him being there to start, and that is what it is. But I think this group of 13 would obviously be fantastic.
Kane's the lefty. He's played on the right side before. You can flip-flop guys around. The Oilers do that all the time. But anyways, I know it's not perfect. I literally typed this up in 3 seconds in Google Docs, so don't be a hater in the YouTube chat. But yeah, like, maybe it's Ryan for Peterson, maybe it's Perry for Lavoie, like however you dice it up. This top 9 is kind of where my focus was. But anyways, just a quick little visual on how it could line up to start next season with what we've seen from the Oilers and the hopeful of maybe a Jeff Skinner.
Do you know what's funny is, and I'm going to be an absolute dampener on everyone's parade right now.
Great.
Matthias Janmark, as much as we all loved him in the playoffs, did only have 8 points all season. Let's not sit here and
low event hockey, good PK guy though.
Great guy. Did a good job in everything else, but like offensively, you weren't getting a lot.
There's a reason I sent him to Guantanamo in January.
Yeah, and like we spoke about him being like, hey, like if you come to the deadline, you can just bury Janmark and no one's gonna claim him. I mean, I love Janmark. Don't get me wrong. If he comes back for $1 million, couple of years, awesome. If he doesn't come back, I'm not gonna sit here and cry about it. But also, a fourth line of Brown being your best player with Ryan and Perry also isn't ideal.
Got a long season to figure it out, though.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't actually hate having like the little bit of extra youth there in. I know Peterson's like 27, but even that, all of water on that line too, just to give it a little bit more oomph.
All right, let's get out to the first off, that was our Giant question brought to you by our friends over at Sherwood Ford the Giant. Let's get out to the Star Mechanical guest line, Edmonton's #1 plumbing and heating company. You can find out more about them online by visiting them at starmechanical.ca. Residential, commercial, plumbing, or heating, they do it all.
I forgot something.
Oh, okay.
They're trying to get that Cass guy.
Andre Kasha.
Yeah, that was the guy.
Yeah, could be an interesting depth add. Yeah. He's been overseas though, so it's not like a. I don't think you sign him and write him in with Sharpie. I think it's like a sign him PTO, whatever. Yeah, maybe not PTO. I bet you he gets a deal. But anyways, let's go out. Jason Gregor from the Jason Gregor Show, Sports 1440 joins us. Greg's free agency day was a wild one, especially for like a 15-minute stretch there. But the Oilers come out with Viktor Arvidsson. What do you make of the signing? And I know you just had a chance to hop on the Zoom call with him. What did you make of his comments?
Well, first of all, Liam, put some respect on Janmark's name. You had 12 points, okay? Not 8. For Christ's sakes, there's no need to lie to make your point, okay? But honestly, that fourth line, no offense, is terrible. You cannot go into the regular season with Ryan and Perry. Just want to say that. Too slow. But Arvidson, to me, it's basically a trade. Arvidson for Foegele, right? Now he makes $500,000 more than Fogel's making now in LA. He's historically a more productive offensive player, whereas Fogel's historically a much more durable player. Arvidsson, when he's healthy, guys, I have no question. I have no qualms about his game whatsoever. Now Backstreet is a little bit different. 2 years ago, he played 77 games, which is fine. If you miss 4 or 5, no big deal. The year before that, he missed 16. Then he only missed 6. But, it was 18 and 19 when he missed a fair amount of games. So, to me, that's going to be the question mark. Now, he was pretty adamant that, hey, I know my body. I feel fine. And so, you kind of got to take the player's word for it. He's had different injuries. So, I don't know. Sometimes guys get unlucky and then they come back. So, you can never predict it. But, Kane has started to be a player who's banged up here lately. So, there's, I guess, a risk there. Now, maybe the benefit, guys, is that one of them's hurt enough late in the season, they go on LTIR. And so everybody it's funny, Oiler fans hated that until it benefits. And then they're all of a sudden like, well, put a guy on LTIR because now it's perfect. Doesn't work that way. But anyway, I don't mind the signing at all. They needed a legit second line right winger. They've been, pushing different guys in there. Kane's more of a left winger. He's not really a great right winger. And I look now, like with the addition of Arvidsson, guys, I think there's a few things here. So, I know they're talking about Jeff Skinner. And I was the minute Skinner got bought out, and I even said it on the rundown beforehand, Jeff Skinner, $100 million made, 0 playoff games. That guy should sign for $1.5 million. I see people still talking about $3 million. Why? What the hell are you doing? You don't have to pay him $3 million. And if you do, he doesn't want to win that bad. So I want to find out if he really wants to win. The guy doesn't need any money. It's like $1.5 million, that's fine. But if you get him, guys, then they almost have too many, wingers where you look and say, well, we're going to have to trade somebody. And I think they might have to trade somebody anyway. Kane or Ceci probably makes the most sense. I guess Kulak as well, because you do have Broberg if you want him to play on the left side. So they got to move some money out. But overall, I think Arvidsson, he fits a hole that they've had for a while. He's a proven productive second line right winger. Because if you look at he had 15 points in 18 games last year. He had 59 and 77 the year before. That's legit second line production.
Yeah, that is fair. So our Sherwood Ford Giant question was, what else do you expect the Oilers to get up to this offseason? You mentioned the Kane or Ceci deals. I know it's a long summer and the trade market really hasn't gotten going all that seriously yet. Do you think there's a legitimate chance one of those two gets moved out this summer, or is that a bit of a pipe dream?
Well, Kane has a no movement clause, so he'd have to agree to it. Cody Ceci's a player who, I know he's a whipping boy for some people, the vocal minority, but he's not nearly as bad as people say. Now he's too expensive if he's playing in your third pair. I 100% agree with that. So, is it one where Oilers don't have to fix all of their holes and have the perfect lineup when the season begins, right? People have to remember that. Look at their playoff roster. Henrique, Broberg, Holloway weren't here basically. So, you acquired all those guys, up from the minors, but still, like Raphael Lavoie, maybe he's a guy who comes up midway through the season. I know he has to clear waivers. So what? He hasn't played in the NHL yet. Everybody, it's the most overrated thing all the time. Oh, someone's going to claim him on waivers. The odds are extremely low. Every team in the league has a guy who's been showing you glimpses in the American League, and you're, well, geez, I'm not sure he can be an NHLer. Right? Like those guys, aren't getting claimed all the time. So I think Edmonton could go in. Like, I know that there's been talk with Corey Perry. I really think they want to get Janmark done, guys. And I think he wants to be here. And I know we talk about it. I don't care. The guy can score 10 points. I give 2 squirts. He kills penalties. There's still a defensive part of the game. And after watching the playoffs, I'm stunned at how people still will talk about offense first. Who cares? Does Edmonton need offense? No, they don't. Janmark scored. He scored 3. He scored as many goals in the playoffs as he scored all regular season because he's a gamer. He's shown it every year in the playoffs. He's physical. He's strong. He's a good skater. Now, 12 points was like a real low for him. If he scores me 18 points for $1 million and kills penalties as well as he does, he's excellent value for your team. I honestly, I think Janmark should be priority number 1 for this team. I really do. Him and Brown were so good together as a third line that can play against the other team's top lines. So you can shelter's the wrong word. So you can get an advantage with McDavid and Draisaitl against the other team's bottom lines. That's why I want both of those guys back.
So actually, AB, flash up the random lines I threw together once again. Like, how much better do you feel about this if Derek Ryan is Lane Peterson and Corey Perry's Matthias Janmark?
Well, 1,000 times better. Yeah, a lot better for sure. No question in my mind. Like, Derek Ryan, I think is probably, your 12th, 13th guys, a veteran forward. I just don't know if they really need both Derek Ryan and Corey Perry on your team next year. I get all the leadership stuff. I understand it, but the Oilers just went to the Stanley Cup final now. Their leaders have been through the worst, most gut-wrenching situation you could imagine in the NHL. You can't lose worse than in Game 7 by 1 goal in the Stanley Cup final. It's impossible. So I don't know if they need Corey Perry just for his veteran leadership anymore, right? Like, I don't, is it more important than if Raphael Lavoie, who's big and can play 9 minutes and skate as well, then maybe he can do it. But I think Raphael Lavoie, guys, to make this team, he's got to kill some penalties because otherwise, how does he get any minutes on your team?
Yeah, like I think it's a situation where going into the summer, and one of the interviews you did a while ago that really stood out with me is when you chatted with Cogliano. I think it was last summer, Greg's, and he talked about the summer where he had the flip, right? Where he was like, I need to just try be a good bottom sixer. If Lavoie has that kind of summer where he sits down and says, I'm going to learn how to be a great penalty killer, I'm going to be physical as hell, he'll be on this team next year. Yeah,
like it is. And it's hard. Now, Cogs, of course, was a proven NHL player, and he had to make the adjustment of, I'm not a centerman anymore. And sometimes you kind of have to mourn that as a player, is what he talked about. Because if you played something your whole way, like Raphael Lavoie has always been a scorer at every level. And it's a really hard mental adjustment for someone, because in your head, you're like, well, if I'm not scoring, I'm not contributing, because that's what I've done my whole career. So I've talked to lots of players about it, and it's easy to say it, but it's hard to convince yourself that you're playing well when you see 0-0-0 after the game, but I didn't get scored on. And that it is hard to adjust to. And that's a reason why lots of players who are top 6 guys, top line players in junior, even in the American League, don't make it to the NHL because there's not enough room for all of them to be top 6. And then it's more of a mental challenge sometimes that you can't find that right way to play and maintain your confidence. Because you can play, like for Lavoie to run around and just hit guys, he could do it. But eventually you start to hesitate because you don't have any confidence because you feel like you're doing nothing, right? Like even like Conor Brown talked about it, like he had no pop in his game early. And he just, it starts to, as much as you try to tell yourself it doesn't matter, I think it does, right? So, it's like anybody out there, you get dumped by your girlfriend, you're like, no, I'm still good looking. I'm still a good person. But meanwhile, it's like, I'm not a good looking, like it happens. So I think it's harder.
Thoughts on that? No,
no comment. What did you make of this Josh Brown signing? Everyone's kind of freaking out with the analytics of it, but at the end of the day, it's a $1 million deal for what looks to be a depth defenseman.
Well, I think anytime. Now, let's be real here. Do I think Josh Brown is going to come in here and put up huge numbers? No. When you're the third pair defenseman on a bad team in Arizona, do you think you're going to have good analytics? Like, did anybody on that team? Like, it's like how many guys in Carolina have unreal analytics and they go somewhere else and it's like, oh geez, their analytics aren't as good. I'm like, oh, shocking, because they played in like the ideal system where every line and every defense pair is solid. And so you play to Rod Brindamore's system. So like now Brown, I don't get too upset because he's $1 million player, right? And you got to remember, in the middle of the regular season, when it's November and December and January, where the cup is not being won, but it can be lost if other teams are going to just take little liberties here and there with your team, right? And Edmonton wants some level of toughness that's still a part of the game in the regular season. In the playoffs, not as much. Everybody's physical. And I'm not saying if you have Josh Brown that no one takes a run at McDavid. That's not what I'm saying, because it's unlikely Josh Brown is going to be on the ice with Connor McDavid very often, right? But you want those guys to, every now and then when a game gets out of hand and it's December, the coach can be like, well, at least we have someone who can push back, right? And it's not necessarily pushing back on the Rats, because the Rats aren't going after Josh Brown. So that's where I think he's signed for, guys. Like Chris Knoblauch was a very hard-nosed player. Go and Google some of his fights. Knoblauch could fight, right? Like he's a big man. And I still, he understands. The one thing I respected about Knoblauch, he made sure every player on that team felt important. I don't care if you're the 13th forward, you're the 7th defenseman, you play, you rotate guys in, and that's what they'll bring in Brown. Now, maybe they think Josh Brown could be a regular everyday third pair guy, and you're going to move Cody Ceci, right? And so he's your third pair right defender. Like that's, I see him, if I was guessing now, I think he'd probably play 35 to 40 games, barring some serious injuries. And you know what? $1 million, it's a 3-year deal. They obviously like his toughness. And I just think that, I know you can look at every element, analytics, and Liam talked about it at the start, right? All of a sudden, the analytics crowd likes Janmark, where they disparaged him for 3 years. Oh, why? Because where the games matter, analytics don't matter in the playoffs because it's too small of a sample size. You only look at what is actually happening. So not every player is going to be an analytics darling, and it doesn't mean they have zero value. Like he's getting $1 million, right? Like he's paid like a number 6 or number 7 defenseman. That's what he's paid. And he brings an element that some of the other guys who might be better puck movers don't have. All right. So that's why they sent him. All right. He's basically Vinny Desharnais' physical replacement.
Last one from me. The team that wins free agency rarely ever wins the Stanley Cup.
Of course.
The Nashville Predators, Barry Trotz spending like a drunken sailor. Are they a legit cup contender in your eyes, or was it just a lot of overspending on vets? Like Stamkos is great. I'm not trying to say Stamkos isn't great. Marchessault's scored 40 goals. That's awesome. But is that enough for Nashville to push them over the edge?
Well, who's the centers that are moving in the puck? Honestly. So they've got Forsberg as a shooter. They got Stamkos, he's a shooter. They got Marchessault as a shooter. Who's their centerman? Like shooters still need a passer. Right. So that's my question in Nashville. I think Nashville becomes a competitive team. They've been a competitive team. And you know what? They got lots of guys who want to play there. And I understand it all. So there's a few things here at play that I'd like to say. So, because I keep hearing it repeated. And I'm like, and people repeat it now to the point that they think it's a massive, massive advantage. Oh, Sam Reinhart. I can't believe what a great deal. I'm like, really? Sam Reinhart. Does anybody out there think he's going to have a PDO of 1.025. He's going to have a 24.5% shooting percentage. He scored 27 power play goals. He scored 5 shorthanded goals, guys. He had 32 special teams goals last year. He had 52 combined in the previous 4 years. Anybody who doesn't think that was the outlier maximum of Reinhart is dreaming. So at 8.6, that's what he should get paid. So there's zero discount for being in the tax-free zone. Did Steven Stamkos at $8 million get this great rebate in no tax state Nashville? No. Did Marchessault? No. Did Brady Shea? No. So please stop. What about Gensel? What's the number everybody talked about, Ty, for the last 3 months? 9.5. What did he sign for? So is this, can we please stop? It's great for the players. There's none of this massive saving. Like it might be $200K here, but that happens all the time, right? Could Conor Brown have gotten $1.2 million somewhere else? Yeah, he probably could have, but he signed for $1 million in Edmonton. It's basically the same thing as if we're going to go to that small of a level. So I'm so tired of hearing about the tax-free state thing. Like this is massive savings that every player gets. Like, give me a break. So anyway, Nashville, good for them, but They're not. I will say this: if they get to the playoffs, they could be they're a team that could be a tough out for you. But I don't think they're going to win that many rounds. They do have Saros. I like them. I think I would pick Nashville to make the playoffs for sure. But do I think they're a cup winning team? And what about Seattle, fellas? Like, you're like, do you know how much dead cap space there is in the NHL this coming season from buyouts?
No, I don't.
Well, I have an article coming out tomorrow. We'll tease it on Oilersnation because I've talked about this for years. And trust me, it's a way more than people think. And the amount of dead cap space that the players have that nobody can use now because they're not even in the league. So if you actually made UFA 28 years of older, maximum 5-year term, it would say like Chandler Stevenson, he'd get 5 years. He'd get the exact same AAV, but he's 30 years of age. Chandler Stevenson, like he's getting 6.25. Like Brandon Montour, I like Brandon Montour as a player, and his might age okay because he skates really well. But oh my goodness, Seattle, I know they got high ticket prices and they had to make a splash, but like I can tell you, man, we could go through a list. We could have a whole segment here and talk about contracts, high good chance of getting bought out. And there's going to be a lot of them. Like I couldn't believe some of the term, some guy, because it's always term, right? Like Josh Brown at 3 years, but it's $1 million. So whatever, you can bury him in the minors if you have to, it doesn't even hurt you. But you got 7 years for a guy who's like a low end second line center at 30 years of age. Like good for him. But that's a tough one.
He's hit 20 goals once in his 7-year career, and Seattle
All-Star. Do you remember who did he beat out from the Oilers?
He went over Hyman.
That was it.
Went over Hyman. That was wild. Anyways, I think Stevenson's one of the big overpays of the day. Just to wrap, Greg's, anyone else stand out to you as either a really good move, something you like, or a move that you're just like, we laughed at the Joel Edmondson deal. I can't believe Edmondson got that kind of a ticket in LA.
Now, did that come out? Was that official? Because I know they had it, and then because you lose track of every guy getting signed. So that one came. Well, hey, I like Chris Tanev as a player. The way he plays is that one going to age well? No, but I'll say this: one I really liked. I think the Anthony Beauvillier 1 year at 1.25. I think that's a really good low value bet for Pittsburgh. I think he's a guy who's going to be able to outdo that. Who else did I like? I like all the shorter term deals, to be honest, right? Because I think like there's very less risk of it coming back to bite you. That's to me like there's some big cap hits for sure, but the longer term ones are usually where you're just kind of like, what are we doing here? Like 6-7 years for some guys who are good, like Matt Roy, 7 years. At 5.75 for a defensive defenseman, like, that's a tough one. What about the Capitals, guys? Like, is there a team that has made more moves in the offseason than the Washington Capitals? Like, Ovechkin he's got to be doing cartwheels. Like, hey, I'll get my organization. We're trying to do everything here to win. They get Chikrin, they made a lot of moves. I think, like, look at the Eastern Conference. Like, how can Pittsburgh even make? They didn't make the playoffs last year. I don't know if they've improved at all, but Washington has improved a ton. So yeah, it's kind of a crazy one for the East to see who's going to go up and down over there.
Do you know what's actually a really good deal by Washington? I really like the Logan Thompson trade that they got. Now you have Thompson and Lindgren for what was that? Right around $2 million.
It's right under $2 million.
That is solid. He's been a good goalie.
Well, Charlie Lindgren's he's a great example of the goalies are late developers, right? And and Kevin Woodley, I remember 2 years ago, Kevin Woodley on my show was like, "Hey, Charlie Lindgren's your break," and I'm like, "Who?" And but he obviously knows the goalie's way better. Like I knew who he was, and he was bang on. And so he always gives me kind of his pick for breakout goalie. So I always follow that one because for the last few years he's been pretty bang on guys that he thinks are ready. He had Connor Ingram and he had Lindgren the last few years, so not bad.
Just quickly, tiny Oilers nugget from Puckpedia. Colin D'Elia coming in on a 1-year, 2-way contract. So Oilers adding a little bit of goaltending depth there, and we'll see what else they get up to over the next couple of weeks. Greg's, appreciate you hopping on.
Have a good Canada Day to you and all the viewers. Now you can enjoy it finally.
Oh, you better believe it. See ya, Greg's.
See ya.
Have a good one.
There you go. Jason Gregor from the Jason Gregor Show, Sports 1440. He streams the show live right here on Oilers Nation as well. And as we go away and down to our 3 shows a week, the guys at Sports 1440 go 5 days a week. They don't stop. No quit.
The Colin Delia thing is interesting because Olivier Rodrigue is going to should be the starter there, but bringing in a guy like Colin Delia, you would imagine like he's not going to want to sit there and not play. Like he's been an American League starter numerous times.
I'm sure he doesn't want to, but he's 30 years old and he's being offered $250,000 to hang on Bakersfield. So.
Interesting that they did.
I want to play in the NBA,
but also the others like Ryan Fancy yesterday, so Connor Unger will go down to the CHL team, whoever that is anymore.
I looked up Chris Knobloch fights. Greg wasn't kidding.
I'll put it in the
YouTube chat.
Hell
beat the shit out of this dude.
Shout out hockeyfights.com. Just looking at Chris Knobloch, hearing him talk, he doesn't give you the vibe that he'll beat the hell out of you. But
no, silent killer. Kind of like John Wick. Oh, you would never pick Keanu Reeves as...
Don't mess with Nobby's dog. Don't do it.
Just leave Nobby's dogs alone.
Unrelated, but kind of related. The Florida Panthers Stanley Cup parade, I tried my best to not pay attention to it.
I couldn't.
We did say Paul Maurice was one of the good stories that we appreciated out of that. Him wearing a shirt with the Panthers logo on the front and back. He has 2 cats of his own. So he had his cats' faces photoshopped on the front and back of the Panthers logo.
That's pretty funny.
That was pretty funny. I'll give him credit for that.
You were obviously at the draft. Do you want? Is there anything else you want to touch on? I just want to ask you about that quickly.
Yeah, ask me about the draft.
I mean, hey, they traded into the first round. I think that's kind of something nobody expected. Was tweeted his sources, whoever they were.
And I quote tweeted it.
Quote tweeted him. Clearly had the same sources that the Oilers weren't gonna do that. And they did.
So again, I'm very lucky to get to cover stuff like that. And I've been to a number of drafts now. If you ever think you would enjoy going and watching an NHL draft in person, I am here to tell you, you will enjoy it for 30 minutes. And then you'll be like, well, this is terrible. Like, it's boring as hell.
Even at the Sphere?
My draft experience was...
I got motion sickness. It was... it was a lot.
Mine was watching the first 5 picks, going outside, leaving it on the TV, and every time I came back in for a drink, I was like, oh, I wonder who got picked. That was awesome.
You want to hear... I wrote 2 articles that night.
Hey, during
the draft. Okay. I wrote one that was going to drop right when the draft ended. And it was about how, hey, the Oilers didn't do anything, but here's what happened in the Pacific Division. Here's how the division's shaking out. And then one the next day about what I was expecting coming out of the draft. I crushed out those 2 articles. Boop, 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 boop. It's pick 26, hanging out with my intern, Jacob. And he was like, yeah, I'm hungry. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm kind of hungry too. The food at the draft wasn't that good. I'm like, yeah, it's pick 26. Let's wait 2 more. Pick 28. And I was like, all right, man, everyone's still here. Let's go beat traffic.
Good idea, because it's a little bit off the strip. Right?
Yeah, it's off strip. So I pack up all my stuff. I text BM. I go, hey, my 2 articles are done. They're ready to be scheduled. We are good to go. He goes, perfect. I'll schedule them for right when the draft ends. Get outside to the Sphere. Hop in my Uber. Oh, my phone's buzzing. Oh, pick 32. Oh my God, the Oilers are getting it. I'm like I'm out of the parking lot. There's no turning back. My editor was like, do you want to go back? I was like, dude, by the time we cancel this Uber, get out of the Uber, run back in. Over. So Ellis and Larkin were in there. I was like, guys, can you grab pictures and quotes for me? They did. But I literally went all the way to Vegas to cover the draft and left before the Oilers made their only pick.
I mean, hey, it was incredibly unexpected and stuff, especially what they traded to get it.
Yeah.
You work hard.
Sam O'Reilly, the pick. I don't know a lot about him, but I know that players from the London Knights have a winning mentality, which is a good thing. From what I read, he was a killer in the Memorial Cup. London had a fantastic season too, losing in the Memorial Cup to Saginaw. But people pointing to a guy like Easton Cowan last season, who Toronto drafted, who the thing with London is they will go out and just get all the older guys and not bury their younger guys, but they're not given as much opportunity.
Every year
they'll come up and do extremely well. And people are worried about this first-round pick the Oilers have traded. I'm here to tell you, don't worry about it at all. The Oilers opened up the door to their first-round pick in 2027, basically once the season turned. So they still have 2 first-round picks to play for. If they really wanted to, they can figure out how to get another first-round pick or something of value to then trade at the deadline. But, hey, Vegas didn't trade their first-round pick when they won the Cup 2 years ago.
It's a decent point as well, and there's a lot of pieces on the Oilers roster that again are kind of locked in. So they'll find a way to make it work. All right, let's keep cruising along here on the show. What's next? We did Star Mechanical Guest Line, crush that out. go around the league a little bit? Should we do that for our friends at Spring Financial? Unexpected expenses, Liam. They can get you. Sometimes teams overspend in free agency. Sometimes you, day-to-day life, you got to overspend on some things, like your house needs repairs, your kid needs a new hockey stick, your car breaks down. Guess what? You can borrow money for those unexpected expenses right now from your phone and receive an e-transfer within hours. Spring Financial offers online personal loans from $500 up to $35,000 with no stress and no branch visits ever. Join their thousands of happy customers who have made them Canada's top-rated lender. Apply in 3 minutes at springfinancial.ca. All right, we talked a little bit about the Predators loading up. It's interesting that Central Division just got a whole lot more competitive because listen, Winnipeg might be in a spot to take a step back next year, but Colorado ain't.
Hellebuck will prevent that though.
He won the Vezina this year. Can he be better? Like, I don't know.
That's true.
Colorado will still be good. Dallas will still be good. Now, all of a sudden, Nashville's looking better in that Central. And then, listen, they're not going to be playoff good, but Chicago went and added a lot. And not last year, it was like Perry, $4 million, Foligno, $4 million. And it was like, okay, both those guys kind of stink, but I see what you're doing. Now it's Bertuzzi and it's Teravainen. And, Martinez is an aging vet. He's lost a step, no doubt, but he can eat minutes for you.
It's only a year.
Korchinski, Vlasic, they'll be better on the blue line. Bedard now has more help. What's his ceiling going to be next season?
Yeah.
Chicago's not going to make the playoffs, but they're going to eat more points. They're not going to be a 52-point team. I would say I could see them being mid to high 60s, if I'm being totally honest with you. They got Brossoit as well, so a bit of security in net. St. Louis might be worse next year.
I was kind of looking. I think Chicago will be the worst team in the division.
Minnesota hasn't done anything to think they're going to get back in the playoff mix.
Minnesota and St. Louis didn't do much upgrades, while everyone else kind of got around them. Like Utah, holy smokes!
Hey, here's one I'll throw your way.
All right,
Western Conference. The playoff teams last year were Dallas, Winnipeg, Colorado, Vancouver, Edmonton, LA, Nashville, and Vegas. If I gave you plus 200 odds, so 2-1 odds on those same 8 teams being the same 8 playoff teams next year, would you take them? Plus 200. Would you take that?
No, I wouldn't. I'm trying to pull up the standings.
And I know I stood up earlier and said the Kings are going to miss.
Yeah,
I think they're the bubble team now. When you look at the way that the conference is shaping up, I would say they're the bubble team with like Seattle and Utah chasing them. And that honestly might be it.
So in the Pacific, I think it's fair just to switch Vegas and LA. Vancouver, but even like
and then in the Central you switch Nashville and Winnipeg.
Okay, and then you're saying who would your wildcard teams be? Seattle?
It's a competitive group of LA, Winnipeg, Seattle, and Utah. And I'm not sure. I mean, Minnesota might be good next year, but I don't see them being better. Still lots of offseason left. I know that, but
I do think St. Louis will still be solid. They still while they didn't move anyone. They didn't lose Kevin Hayes, I suppose, but they still have a decent group like Kyrie Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich. Not terrible, You put that up against Utah, who, I get it, went out and added Sergachev and those guys.
And Marino.
Still a young
and they got
group,
room if they want to add some.
Yeah, if they want to add, then but their forward group, you're kind of waiting for guys to take that jump.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't rule out St. Louis just yet, but I like the 6 teams we kind of came up with to win the top 3 in each division. Yeah. Wild cards will be interesting. It's going to, I don't know. Yeah.
And it is interesting to compare the 2 conferences because, again, like San Jose, Chicago, Anaheim, not real threats to make the playoffs. Obviously, Calgary won't be a threat next year. And I think, I guess you could make the argument on a few other, but there are 4 teams that I don't think are going to be threats next year. Maybe Anaheim's a bit better, but again, they haven't done anything yet in free agency. Yeah. So maybe 4 teams that I think are going to be in the basement. You look out east, Montreal.
They did nothing.
And they're maybe the one team you'd look at and go squarely in a rebuild. But Columbus wants to be better. They went and signed Monahan. They might still end up being down in the basement. But I'm just saying from a perspective of will they be disappointed if they don't make the playoffs? Okay. Is the season a failure if you miss the playoffs? In the West, there's 4 teams where it's not the case. Mm-hmm. In the East, I think it's a disappointment for everyone but Montreal if they don't make the playoffs next year. Maybe Philly, but they're getting Mitchkov now, so probably not.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The East is kind of crazy right now, isn't it? Like, I don't know. I think if you're the Ottawa Senators, I would agree. But on the harshness scale of, like, example, say Pittsburgh doesn't make it, then it is an utter failure that they did not make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I would put Ottawa at the opposite end of that because they're still in that weird stage of, like, trying to figure it all out, but they need to get moving, definitely. But yeah, the East is kind of loaded to shit. There's going to be some teams, and also maybe even at the deadline, some pretty solid players who might be available from these good teams. I don't know. Like, who do you see? Like, so this
Frank would murder us if he knew we were talking deadline today.
Well, I wonder what his list is.
Should I text him?
He's got
Frank, what are you hearing about the Oilers and their deadline plans?
So Carolina and New York are locks for the Metro 1 and 2, I would say.
Okay. I love how ahead of ourselves we get. And like consistently too. We always do
as
this.
Well. We got a full summer ahead of us, folks. New Jersey, Washington competing for the third spot. And then you have the Islanders, Penguins, Columbus fighting, right? Did I miss a team? Philly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say the Islanders make the playoffs too.
All right.
That Duclair signing is good.
Oh my God. Okay. Can we there's something that just pissed me off.
All right.
So can we do the Betway other sports report?
Yep.
Because we can't bet on hockey anymore. So we got to find some other stuff to get into. Anyway, shout out to our friends at Betway, where you can get a free bet up to $200 simply by heading to Betway, placing a wager with no minimum amount required. And if that bet loses, you'll get a refund up to $200. You can then use that money to bet on your favorite sports. This offer only available outside of Ontario. Okay, I'm checking to see if he's injured or what. But the fact that the Blue Jays, it's their Canada Day game. That's always a big deal. People are on their day off. The stadium's full. You wear your red jerseys, all of that. They are saying it's injury. Okay, I'm not as mad at them. Vladdy's not in the lineup today. And I literally thought it's because they just decided they were going to do the whole scheduled day off thing. And I would have flown to Toronto right now and kicked John Schneider's ass. But he's hurt because he got hit in the hand by Garrett Cole, who's
how's his haircut helped him?
He's been the hottest hitter in the majors for the last 8 days.
There you have it, folks.
He in the last he finished 3 RBIs away from setting the MLB record for most RBIs in a week.
Wow.
He homered in the first 3 games of the Yankee series, and I was in Vegas. I bet on him to do it twice.
Wow. When in Vegas.
I like the new do.
You should see how much USD I got in that wallet thanks to the Blue Jays right now. Our feet touched.
I give you a good kick before I
really
accidentally.
I didn't even notice.
Wow.
Betway other sports report. You're dialed into the Olympics. That's all you care about this summer.
I'm excited for the Olympics, but our other sports report, I don't know if you can find this, but yesterday England were playing Slovakia in the Euros, and we were down and out. They actually played. If you're a football fan like me, you'll know this. When England lost to Iceland in the Euros, I think it was 2016, arguably the worst performance by an England team ever.
Yep.
Yesterday became extremely close to also being that. And with 6 minutes at a time, in the 95th minute, our hero, Jude Bellingham, scored a bicycle kick to tie the game and send it to extra time. And then Harry Kane scored the game winner, and England moved on to play Switzerland. People are saying it's not coming home. I completely agree. England are very, very bad. They do not play good football. I was so down and out yesterday that during the extra time, at a time of the regular time, I went outside and watered my plants. I was so annoyed. They were getting absolutely nothing done. They were just passing it back and forth amongst the defenders. And I come in, and the first thing I see was Jude Bellingham scoring a bicycle kick. It was incredible. I couldn't believe it. And they won. I'm a huge fan. It's coming home. Rule Britannia.
How are your plants looking? Oh, breaking news. Oh my God, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Is this a real account or is it fake? Why are they doing this?
That's the Edmonton Oilers.
Ew.
That is so unnecessary.
I don't like that money.
The Edmonton Oilers have re-signed Corey Perry, 1 year, $1.4 million. Who are you bidding against?
What the fuck?
Who's outbidding you for Corey Perry? $1.4 million? You had to healthy scratch him for most of the playoffs. How is he worth more than Conor Brown?
What?
Dude, that is
Oh, man.
That's got to be a bonus, right?
No. They
1
just
year,
announced
1.4
They
million.
just announced it straight up.
Is Ken Holland still around?
Ken Holland's still working the phones. Jeff Jackson's like, who's signing these guys? That's dumb. I'm sorry. That's really dumb. He's 39. We had this conversation with Gregor when it comes to Skinner, right? And it was like, okay, you've made how much money in your career? Do you want to win? If so, yes. Okay, you're in Edmonton. You're taking a discount. Corey Perry's made how much money in his career? If he wants to come back and try win here, he comes back for league minimum.
Yeah.
That's dumb. That's dumb cap management.
That is
Real
crazy.
stupid.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That is.
God, that
You
pisses-
nailed it right there. That is dumb. Right here.
Speechless. So let's just put it into perspective here a little bit. You've essentially let Janmark maybe walk, like give that money to Janmark if anything, and Vinny for that much, like Henrique's
Literally
gone.
anyone but Corey Perry.
1.4. That is
So he does not kill
Absolutely.
penalties. He does not skate well. His hands have very much let him down. He scored once in the playoffs, and it was on a tap in from Connor McDavid on the assist of the year.
yeah. That might be the. Okay, it says. Do you really think there's no bonuses in this?
I hope so, but I don't see anything.
Surely, right?
Frank, 1.4.
More than Conor Brown. Oh, well, we were having a great show.
That was a horrible way to end it.
I was in such a good mood. It is very early, but I didn't love their process of the trading the first for Sam O'Reilly. I was like, that's a little questionable. They give Pickard an extra year and $150K too much, but you're like, it's fine. Because Pickard didn't, he was
$5
good.
million bucks.
I know, but like, squeeze guys, you're the Oilers. You're winning
Yeah.
now.
Maybe they did squeeze him.
There's no way another team was giving him more than that.
But wasn't Pickard 900 last year, or was he 775?
Sevens, I
Okay.
think, is league.
Okay.
So again, they give him a big raise, and it's like, okay, that's not a big deal, but I question the process a little bit in that regard. They waited on buying out Campbell, eventually bought him out, so who cares? That was fine. You wanted to wait for the trade. This Perry thing, man. It's just, I mean, even the Josh Brown thing, like, who are you bidding against to give him a third year? And again, it's buriable. So at the end of the day, don't really care.
Pickard made 760 last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you could have given him an extra 100K.
Yeah.
And 2 years, he's a backup. And then this one, Maynard, to be fair, Jeff Jackson did say he wasn't a GM. Well,
someone better step in and give
Yeah.
that man a hand. Because if anything, if he knows that, then he should have hired somebody and started this process.
why do you have to give Corey Perry $1.4 million? And also, can I just give it to Corey Perry a little bit here? The hell you need $500K for, bro? You got to double dip last year after your contract got ripped up because of your conduct. And you're squeezing us for $500K? I thought you wanted to win.
1.45.
I'm not even mad at Perry. I'm mad at his agent.
I'm mad at
Fire your agent, Corey.
Who is his agent? I'm going
As
to
1.15 plus bonuses.
I was so happy with our data.
1 point plus bonuses.
1 point. Who tweeted it? Rashad? Mildly less angry. Still angry. 1.15 plus 250K in performance bonuses, but they're already paying him performance bonuses from last year. Stop the madness.
And I use the word performance lightly.
Okay. If they're like 20, if it's 20 goals, Sure. If this is like once he plays in his third game, we give him $250K, I'm going to lose it.
Yeah. I'm just looking here.
What's the point?
So next season, the Oilers will pay Perry 1.4, and then Derek Ryan 900, and they are 39 and 37. Ay. Hey, maybe they move Evander Kane, which a lot of people on Twitter are saying right now. Certain shows are talking about how sour that relationship has become. Maybe it's just turns out that they end up getting to move him, and this kind of becomes irrelevant.
But the new house.
It's a new house. You can give it to Jeff Skinner.
Corey Perry can afford it now. Let's go.
Oilers lost in game 7 days ago. I'm going to not be angry about $300,000 against the salary cap. It's not good for me, Liam.
It's just silly. Like it is like you said.
No, I'll say it's dumb as shit.
They should be able to squeeze guys. And I mean, at the end of the day, if that comes in and they're like, we gave Corey Perry $1 million, I think everyone's kind of okay with it. But it's that extra $400K. It's just like, what are we doing?
I like Siggy in. Tyler should put his resume in for GM rather than sitting behind a mic spouting off. Hey, Siggy, here's an idea. Shut up.
There you go.
Think about that. Don't watch the show.
Also, he did put in his resume. I saw him. He wrote a nice letter to Daryl.
Dear Daryl, my dearest Daryl. I hand wrote
And
it.
he just kept playing the armchair GM.
Sitting behind a mic spouting off. Bro, we've been doing this show for like 600 episodes.
427 to be exact.
Including season 1?
Yep.
Good
I
for
think
us.
so.
Sick.
Good job.
I would assume.
It's a lot of episodes.
Yeah, well, there you
So,
go, folks.
Why am I pissed off about this? Oh, Siggy meant that in a good way, apparently. Okay. Well, then I apologize for telling you to shut up. But that was sarcastic. You got to work on your phrasing if it was good.
Yeah, put your emotions at the end of the text.
Mm-hmm.
Blank, blank, blank. 2 stars, sarcasm.
Mm-hmm. You got to put the /S.
Yeah, we need to know.
Yeah.
What is Bob's? Oh, Bob retweeted. He didn't say anything.
Okay. Bob also says they're looking at Bob being cryptic is so funny. Apparently, he said on his show, look for the Oilers to sign a right shot D-man who's played north of 600 games and can move the puck.
All right.
Just tell us the
Oddly
name.
specific,
Bob,
yeah.
just tell us the name. I know you can't, but Bob, text me the name and I'll get it out there for you.
Yeah,
Don't need to play these games. Someone said buyout nurse. No, I think the buyout window's closed now.
Patrick Morris is Corey Perry's agent.
Pat, meet you at the bike racks, big guy.
He also got Josh Bailey a lot of money once upon a time.
Mm.
And Michael Del Zotto. Wow. Man, this guy's a record. Eric Branson. Oh, no. We should have seen this one coming.
You represent some real. I'm not going to say it.
Real awesome players.
Mm-hmm. You know what's keeping? I know Zach commented, said someone get Tyler a beer. You know what's keeping me relatively sane? In fact, I have a round of golf booked tonight. Shout out to our friends at the Millwood Golf Course. Private club conditions for under $100. Greens are always immaculate. Relaxing driving range with the music blasting. Lots of targets. A fully stocked pro shop. Find out more millwoodsgolf.ca. Check them out on their socials at Millwoods GC. I also golfed yesterday. Golfed terribly. Like my worst round in probably 2 years.
Wow.
And while I was on whatever, like the 11th hole, I was like, I'm golfing again tomorrow. This is bullshit. So I'm back at it again tonight. Anyways.
Another guy who his agent represents, Sean Monahan.
Just got a huge ticket.
Big day for this guy. This guy is getting some paychecks. All right. Well, I was really hoping the news coming through was like, we got Jeff Skinner and then we can end the show. But now we have to end the show.
Siggy said, no, I wasn't being sarcastic. I was being serious.
Okay. This is
so
very confusing.
I think my shut up stands. I've reinstated the shut up.
Ilya Samsonov to Vegas. Samsonov.
We done?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We got Oodle Noodle.
Oh, fuck yeah. And I'm recording a new real life in a little bit. So look for that wherever you get your podcast from. Everyone over in the YouTube chat today brought to you by our friends at Greta Bar Yag. It is where you all come together online to talk Oilers, where we'll be coming together on our nights off in the summer. It's Greta, arcade, bar, street food. It is a fantastic place to spend not just Friday, Saturday nights, but they do great stuff during the week as well. They got like Taco Tuesday. They got discounted game cards on a bunch of nights.
All kinds of cool stuff. Last night they did a luau limbo event at Greta.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
I don't think you or I could compete in that.
Limbos give off a lot of sexual energy.
Greta Bar Yag. Best place to sit.
Shout out to Greta. All right, we'll be back on Wednesday with a new edition of the show. So we'll continue talking about all things off season then. Shout out to our friends at Betway, Sherwood Ford the Giant, Sherwood Power Sports and Marine, the Stingers. We'll keep giving away some tickets as well. They play this afternoon as well. So go Stingers.
Nice.
And they're off to a great start. I think I have given away my tickets. Kevin was the lucky recipient of our tickets at the
Kevin.
Stingers game. So shout out to the Stingers. Trevor, McMullen, is Oilers Nation open ready for sign up? I don't know. This is my first day back at the office in 10 days. I know nothing about what's going on in the operations here, but I'll let you know.
I'll have a look right now. Yes.
All right.
It is.
Show's over. Okay. Registration, nationgear.ca.
I believe so.
Register for the Oilers Nation Open at nationgear.ca. I'm so hungry. Everybody, this was great up until the Oilers signed Perry. We had a lot of fun. We'll be back Wednesday with a new edition of the show. Ciao with you then. Oil up.
Thank you for watching Oilers Nation Every Day. Hit the subscribe button to never miss a show. And for more, visit OilersNation.com.